Hi guys, hope you're doing great. Today I'm talking about the DS260. A DS260 is that document that the government of the USA provide to you as a DV selectee, as a diversity visa selectee to fill all your information and to answer the security questions. Through this DS260, through this document, they will use it to know much about you. So guys, this is the DS260. It looks like this. That is the DS260. There is a number of questions behind it. First, they will give you personal information to fill, addresses, phone information to fill, family information, your family information to fill, previous USA travel information, work, education, and training information. So they will need all that information from you. Then they will ask more about the security questions. So today I'm taking you through the DS360. The first questions they will ask, it will be personal, address, and phone information. From personal information, they will ask the following. They will be asking, what's your name? You will indicate the names which you use. Some of you have a problem with the names. Some of you have a problem where you indicated two names on the passport, yet then there are three names on the education certificate. Whichever the two, maybe you indicated extra name on any kind of document which you don't have on another document. Guys, if you want to solve that kind of information, you just go to any lawyer in your country, talk to them, let them help you get an affidavit of support for your names. It doesn't matter how many names you're using, just get an affidavit of support, which will help you to use to confirm that it's the same person, whichever document you have. So guys, on the DS260, there will be your names, then full names in the native language, then other used names. Then they will ask for your sex, they will ask for your current marital status, which will be married or single. When it comes to your marital status, guys, don't get confused. You should know what status you are. If you're single, you're single. If you're married, you have to provide that document, which is known as a marriage certificate. Some of you are confusing local marriages like traditional marriages to the real marriages. Yes, they might consider those traditional marriages, but they need you to provide a certificate, which is a marriage certificate. So whichever way, guys, the advice I give to most of you, I ask you, go marry in the court, marry in the church. As simple as that, you provide a marriage certificate. So they will further go ahead, ask for date of birth, seat of birth, province of birth, country of birth, the document, your nationality. They will ask what your nationality is. Guys, some of you have nationalities from other countries, which is not the country where you are. Or you have you have nationalities for two countries. So they will ask for your nationality, you mention it, and other nationalities. So they will ask for your date of birth, seat of birth, state, province of birth, country of birth, region of origin, and your nationality, which you already know. Document type, that is the passport type. Document ID, you put the number of your identification, that is the passport number. Country, authority that issued this document, that is your country. Issuance date and expiry date, you indicate it. Do you hold or have held any nationality other than the one you have indicated below or above? Do you hold it? I'm asking, do you hold any other nationality? Are you a Ugandan or you are a Rwandese? Are you, check yourself, guys. Are you a Cameroon? Are you a Cameroonian? I don't know how they call those guys. Or you're from Congo? Which other nationality do you have? I know there are a few people who have different nationalities. So, guys, you have to know your nationality and you have to provide proof. You might have been born in Uganda and you count yourself as a Ugandan. Yes, you qualify to be a Ugandan because you are born from Uganda, but you're a Rwandese. That could be your next nationality, your second nationality. So, do you have proof to provide that you are a Rwandese and you are a Ugandan? Guys, you should know that. So, they're asking you, do you hold or hold any nationality other than the one you have indicated above? So, please be able to provide that. Present address. The present address is where you are. Where you are. The present address, for instance, you're in UAE, you say, I'm in UAE, I'm in the United Arab Emirates. You have to provide the address. So you provide the address, the present address, city, state or province, postal code or zip code, country, stock region, the date from the date from which you started living there to the date you are current there, like from which date have you been living there, you mention. So they will further ask you, have you ever lived anywhere other than this address since the age of 16? Have you? Are you in the United Arab Emirates? That's your present address. Have you ever lived elsewhere? You put Uganda, you put Congo, you put Rwanda, you put wherever you come from to that present address of yours. So guys, you have to indicate that. Then they will ask for other previous addresses. This is where they want to know, where have you been before living in the previous address. So they're asking for other previous address rather than your current address where you are living now. So they would like you to tell them like two. If you don't have two, you can mention one previous address. If you don't have, don't mention. It's not a must. Don't mention. If you don't have, don't mention. But if you have, please mention them because they need to know. So you mention which previous address have you ever lived to? You mention. This is very important, guys. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't get trouble. Just know your history. Where did you live? It doesn't matter which exact date you put. Just put estimate, estimate, estimate which date could you have lived there. Just put a close date to the time where you live there. Don't be like, this is the real date, this is the real time. It doesn't matter. So guys, afterwards they will ask for your primary number. Your primary number, then your secondary number, then your work number. They will ask that. Then they will ask for other numbers you use. Like for me, I used other numbers in the United Arab Emirates. I mentioned the one or two, you can mention whichever. Then they will ask for your email. The email is that email which they use to contact you. Guys, this email should be active. This email is the email which you are gonna be using to contact the Kentucky consular section. And this is the email which will be contacting the embassy. This is the email, it's the official email they'll be using to know who you are, to reach you, or you to reach them. That is the one you have to use. So don't put two different emails. Just put that one which you know that is gonna favor you. So afterwards, they ask about the social media. It's interesting. When you reach this point, you start thinking, social media. Why are they asking about the social media? Guys, it's so simple. I have social media. I didn't put any. So why you trouble yourself? So after that, they will ask for other social medias used. I put none. No. Then they ask, is your mailing address the same as your present address? I said yes. Then they will ask permanent address. The permanent address, then they ask the name of the person currently living at that address. This permanent address is that address of your host. Now you're getting mixed up. I know you asking who is the host, who is the sponsor. Your host could be your sponsor. Guys, get this clear. Your host could be your sponsor, and your sponsor could be your host. So, a host or a sponsor is that person who is willing to take you in, who is willing to provide an habitat of support, is willing to provide host document. That is the person you have to indicate here. And when they ask you where you're gonna be living, you have to mention this person. This is a very important and serious kind of information which you have to provide here, especially those people who are going through Nairobi, USA Embassy. This is a definite necessity. You have to have a host well known as a sponsor. You have to. Don't think twice. Look for one. So guys, when they ask for permanent address, just mention. Then they ask the name of the person currently living at this address. You mention the person. They ask for USA address. You mention the city. You mention the street, and you mention the room number or the house number or the apartment number, the unit number. Then they ask for the state and the zip code. The state you mention. I will not give you this information because I don't know you. Who is your host? Who is your sponsor? Talk to him. Ask him or her to give you his address. Then they will ask for his phone number, which you will have to mention. Then they will ask, is this address where you want your permanent resident card, green card, mailed? Do you want them to mail your green card to this address? Just say yes. Unless you are sure of another address which you wanna get your permanent resident card through. Then After the host document, the host information, they will ask your family information. Guys, don't get confused. Your family information is first of all your father's information, your mother's information. Are they still alive? Where are they? So they will ask you that kind of information, where they are located. If they are dead, you just mention. They don't need proof of your father's death certificate. They don't need. That is not a required information. It's not a required document. So they will further ask about your mother and your father and the cities where they are. Then they will ask about your spouse. If you have any, if you are married, they will ask about your spouse. They will ask your spouse. You mention your spouse, the date of birth, the province where they are located, their occupation. They will further ask if you're immigrating with them. Or the question is like this: is your spouse immigrating to the USA with you? That is a tricky one. That is a tricky one. So let me ask you, if you're really filled up this DS260 the way you wanna do it, did you is your spouse immigrating with you? If you said yes, they will need that spouse to come with you to the interview. They will need you to carry your spouse to the interview with you because you said she or he is migrating with you to the USA. So be sure of the answers you put yes or no. Guys, if your spouse is not coming with you to the US, just say no. They will not ask you anything about him. Some of you, your spouse says there is contradicting stories about your relationship. So you rather leave your spouses if you don't have proof of marriage. If you don't have proof of your serious relationship, don't bring them to the interview, which might lead you to delay or denial of your process, of your interview. So, guys, that is it. Then, further ahead, they are asking you, do you have any children? It's a tricky one. They don't want you to mention children who are not yours. Guys, I know us in Africa, we tend to take care of the kids which are not ours. We take care of our sisters' kids, our our other kids. We say they are ours, even without legal document, even without legit papers like adoption papers. We tend to say they are ours. Your sister will give you his son or daughter, and if I give you my daughter, just verbally. So these kids are not yours until you have a adoption papers, a readoption papers, and that has to be adoption papers. It doesn't have to be words. With America, they will never consider anyone as part of your family until you have papers to prove. So if you have your kids, or if you're married and your spouse has kids, your stepkids, they are needed here. They are allowed. You can travel with your stepkids. So you have to mention. And these kids, they have to be less than 21 years. If you want them to travel with you, you have to accept here where they say, is your child immigrating to USA with you? You have to say yes if you want to travel with them. I always give advices to anyone out there who is a selectee. Make sure you travel with your kids. It's the easiest way. You don't wanna start working on two papers to bring your child when you're in the USA. It's another bigger. Uh, so if you wanna take your child, just press yes, and they ask, does this child live with you? You mention yes, he lives with you. If he doesn't live with you, they will ask for the address where the child is living. So they'll further go ahead asking you about you previous USA travel information. Have you ever been to the US? No. Have you ever been issued a visa, USA visa? No or yes? Either either student visa, either uh, B1, whichever visa it is, just mention yes if you have ever issued that visa. Even if you did not use the visa, just mention it because they have in the system, they know. And one thing you have to know, if you are selected and you attempt to submit your DS260, that information will never be erased from the American information. It will forever say you have ever requested for immigrant visa. So this kind of information, they stay in the system. If you ever try to change your information, just know it's already in the system. The moment you submit your DS260, your information goes direct to the American information system. So guys, you have to note that. So here they're asking you, have you ever been in the USA? No. In my case, no. Have you ever been issued a visa, USA visa? No. Have you ever been refused a visa or been refused admission to the USA or withdrew your application for admission at that port of entry? So I said no. Then there we have ended the first portion of the DS260, which is personal address and phone information. The next portion is about work, education, training information. This is where you will find where you work, which kind of schools you went to, which kind of education you did, then the training information. So guys, if you're gonna answer this, have your work papers, have your education papers. Even if you're currently working, just you have to put something. And if you don't want to resign now, don't resign until you get the visa, but you can ask for a recommendation from your place of work. You can sign in the recommendation, which any paper which shows that I've been working here for this kind of time. So you can present to the embassy. So along with your education certificate or with your training information or training certificate. So here they will ask primary occupation. For me, I wasn't employed. If you are employed, please put I wasn't employed. So I did not put that. Then they put explain. I didn't explain because I wasn't employed. Then they ask, in which occupation do you intend to work in the US? I mentioned military. They wanna see if you have any idea of any kind of work you wish to do in the USA. So guys, just mention anything. If you wanna be a nurse, just mention nurse. If you wanna do something, just mention it. I mentioned army because I wanted to show them that I was seriously wanna work in the USA and I wanna go for the army, which means I have the heart of the America. So you mean you get what I'm saying? where you previously employed? So when they asked me where you previously employed, I said yes, and that was in the UAE. I mentioned they asked for my employer's name. I mentioned the address of my employer. I mentioned the city, state, postal code. With the postal code, I always put the country code. For UAE, that is 971. Just use that. The job title, I mentioned I was a security officer. I mentioned you can mention security guard. It works. So they asked for my supervisor's name. They asked for my supervisor's name. They asked for his given name. I just mentioned my supervisor's name. I just mentioned one name. I did not put given name, whichever I did not put. Then they asked employment date from which date to which date. I just put the dates. Does this job require at least 2 years of training or experience? I said yes. When I was getting this job in the UAE, I had to present a 2 years work experience, which I had in Uganda. So when I reached in the United Arab Emirates, those kind of experience I had and the one I had in Uganda, they made a lot of work experience for me. So, but in the DS260, I did not include my work experience in Uganda. I just only included the United Arab Emirates work experience. Then they asked, have you ever attended an education institute? I said yes. So they asked for the institute and the kind of level I did. I mentioned the highest level of education completed is a high school diploma. So guys, the highest level of education completed, high school diploma. If you have a degree, you can mention your degree. If you did not finish your degree, you can still mention it here, but say you're still enrolled in that degree which you're doing. Number of education institutions, I mentioned 4 because I have proof for those 4 institutions. Name of institution number 1, that is the National Security Institution. According to me, I mentioned the National Security Institution because it was an institution where I went to learn how to perform duties of a security officer or a security guard in the United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi. City, Abu Dhabi. Whichever city where you are worked. State, postal code, zip code, I always put 971. If it's in my country, I put 256. If it's Kenya, Tanzania, which one is 254, 253, 252, 251, whichever, 257, whichever. If you are in any other country in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, you just put zip code, just put the zip code. Don't don't look for the real zip code. It's very easy. Put the country zip code. Then here they ask country, region, United Arab Emirates. Course of study, basic security training course. Degree or diploma, diploma, degree or diploma. Then I put certificate. Date of attention, date of attendance, to which date of attendance. I just put a range of 2 years. I put 2012 to 2013. I just put a 1 year like range of training that I attended it for 1 year range of period. So I put 2012 to 2013, but you can put whichever. Then the second institution, that was my advanced level of education. That is the second institution. With the level of education, I'm starting from the highest, from the latest, going down the ladder. from the highest to the lowest. So I'm following from the highest to the lowest. So I first put the National Security Institute, which I got in 2012, 2013. Then the advanced level of education, I mentioned the HSC, that is the high school diploma. Here, when they ask me second institution, I put the high school diploma. That is the I mentioned which year, which date. You mention whichever your institution of learning it is, just mention that is the highest. If you have the O level certificate, just mention your school there. When they ask how many institutions you have, if you have three, just mention three. In my case, I had four. So here they're asking the first institution you mention, the second institution you mention. Here I mentioned my advanced level of education, which was in Mukono, where I studied. I don't want to take you into details. They ask for address of institution, city, state, postal code, country, or region. Course of study, that is where I mentioned Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education. Diploma or degree, I mentioned certificate. Date of attendance, from which date to which date. Then the third institution. So you will further go ahead mentioning all institutions. You can mention until primary. Don't go until kindergarten. It's not that necessary. Just mention until primary, until the elementary level. That could be the grade. That would be the primary level. That is the elementary level. So after that, they will further ask you about the travel history. They will ask you, have you ever traveled to any country, stroke region within the last 5 years? You mention if you have ever traveled. If you have never traveled, don't worry. If you have ever been to Kenya, just say I've ever been to Kenya. If you're Ugandan who has ever traveled to Rwanda, to Kenya, Tanzania, just mention. If you're Kenyan, you traveled to any other East African nation, just mention it. They will not ask for proof, but just mention it. So better for you. Then here they will ask, have you ever, then the security questions begin. So the first phase of the DS260 is done. That is information about you. So within this section, with this section I'm going to take you into, it's gonna be the security and background information. But before that, above there is questions like, before going to the security and background information, there is a few questions indicated under your personal information, which are, have you ever served in the military? No. If yes, please mention yes. Have you belonged into contributed? Have you belonged to, contributed to, or worked for any professional, social, or charitable organization? If you have ever, just say yes. If never, no. Do you have any specialized skills or training, including firearms, explosives, nuclear, biological, or chemical experience? Do you? Can you speak or read languages other than your native language? List the language that you speak or read. I put English. Interview location. So there you will put where you wanna your interview be. That is Nairobi, Kenya. In my place, I'm a Ugandan, but I put Nairobi, Kenya because in Uganda, with Ugandan embassy, it doesn't cater for the diversity visa lottery program. So under there are security and background information. Guys, look at that. Security and background information. So with this, there will be yes or no. I know most of us, our no's are the same. So I'll be just telling you no because I know our no's are similar. These are questions which they are trying to know your mission to the US and what have you ever done before. If you are a criminal, if you are a criminal minded person or not. So here we go. Security and background information. Do you have a communicable disease or public health significance such as tuberculosis? Do you have tuberculosis? No. Do you have documentation to establish that you have received vaccinations in accordance with the USA law? Yes, this should be yes. Yeah, some are security, some are background information. So, like this question, these first questions are background information, than not kind of security. But we shall go along, we shall come along some security sections, and you will feel like, hey, do they want to know that too? So, guys, let's go explain. Do you have a mental or physical disorder that possesses or is likely to possess affiliate to the safety or aware of yourself or others? Do you have any mental or physical disorder? No. Are you or have you ever been a drug abuser or an addict? No. Have you ever been arrested or convicted for any offense or crime, even though subject of a pardon, amnesty, or other similar actions? No. Have you ever violated or engaged in a conspiracy to violate any law related to controlled substance? No. Are you coming to America to engage into prostitution or unlawful commercialized vice, or have you been engaged in prostitution within the past 10 years? No. Have you ever been involved or do you seek to engage in money laundering? No. Have you ever knowingly aided or assisted individuals who have been identified by the President of the United Arab with who have been identified by the President of the United States of have you ever knowingly aided, assisted an individual who has been identified by the President of the United States as a person who plays a significant role into a severe form of trafficking in persons? Then they ask, are you a spouse, son, daughter of an individual who has committed human trafficking outside the United States or within the last 5 years? No. Do you seek to engage in sabotage, export control violations, other illegal activities in the United States? No. Do you seek to engage into terrorism or terrorist activities? Answer is no. Are you a member of a terrorist organization? No. Are you a spouse, son, daughter of a person who supports terrorists or terrorism? No. Have you ever ordered, incited, committed, assisted, otherwise participated in genocide? No. Have you ever committed, ordered, incited, assisted, otherwise participated in torture? Have you committed, ordered, assisted in extrajudicial killings, political killings, other acts of violence? Have you ever? No. Have you ever been engaged in the recruitment of use of child soldier? No. Have you while serving in the government office, have you directly or been responsible at any time particular severe violation of religious freedom? Have you ever violated religious freedom, as in while working in the government office? Have you ever? Then they will further ask you, are you a member of or affiliated with the communist? So, have you ever directly or indirectly supported any of the groups in Colombia known as the Revolutionary Armed Force in Colombia, National Liberation Army, or United Self-Defense Force of Colombia? Have you ever, through abuse of governmental or political position, converted for personal gain? So, have you ever directly involved into establishment or enforcement of population control, forcing a woman undergo abortion against her free will? Are you a spouse, minor, or agent of an individual who has been disclosed or trafficked in the confidential USA business information obtained in connection with the USA participation in the Chemical Weapon Convention? Are you a sponsor, minor, child, or agent of an individual who has disclosed or trafficked in confidential USA business information obtained in connection with USA participation in the Chemical Weapons Convention? Have you ever sought to obtain or assisted others to obtain a visa, entry into the United States, or other United States immigration benefits by fraud? Or unlawfully means? Have you ever been removed or deported from any country? Have you ever withdrew custody of a USA citizen child outside the United States from a person granted legal custody by the USA court? Have you ever intentionally assisted another person in withholding custody of a USA citizen child without the USA form, a person granted legal custody by the United States court? Have you ever voted in the United States in violation of any law or regulation? Have you ever renounced United States citizenship from a purpose of avoiding taxation? So guys, have you attended a public elementary school or a public secondary school on student F status after November 40, November 4, 1966 without embarrassing the school. Do you seek to enter the United States for the purpose of performing skilled or unskilled labor but have not yet been satisfied by the Secretary of Labor? Those are all no. Are you a graduate of a foreign medicine school seeking to perform medical services in the United States but haven't passed the National Board of Examination National but you haven't passed the National Board of Medical Examiner examination or its equivalent? Those are all no. Are you a health worker seeking to perform such work in the United States but you haven't received its certification? Are you permanently ineligible for USA citizenship? Have you ever departed the United States in order to evade military service during a time of war? Are you coming to the United States to practice polygamy? Have you ever departed the United States in order to evade military service during the time of war? Are you a former exchange visitor who has yet filled the 2 years foreign residence requirement? As the Secretary of Homeland Security of the United States ever determined that you knowingly made a application for asylum? Are you likely to become a public charge after you are admitted to the United States? All those answers are no. And the the part where we have reached, you have to be attentive. This is the social security number information. This is the part where you don't want to mess up, because if you mess up, you might end up not working in the United States. They will ask you when you reach social security number information, have you ever applied for social security number? You say nah. Do you want the Social Security Administration to issue a social security number or a card to you? You say yes, because you want a social security number or a card to you. You need it. Do you authorize disclosure of information from this form to the Department of Homeland, the Social Security Administration, and such as USA government agencies, as may be required for the purpose of signing by a social security number, issuing you a social security number, and do you authorize the social security to, to share your SSN with the Department of Homeland Security? You put yes. Then they will further ask you the last portion of the DS260. Preparer of application. Did anyone assist you in filling out this application? Just say no. That is the end of our DS260, but you have to note your location at the end. It will be like this. Your location at the end, there will be interview location wherever you put United Arab Emirates, Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, Zambia, wherever you put South Africa, you can put wherever, Germany, European countries, wherever you are, Sweden, Japan, Korea, wherever, man, it will indicate there that that's where your interview will take place. And after you filling the DS260, you will get a DS260 confirmation paper like this. This is like a certificate that you filled your DS260. This is to certify that you filled your DS260. And this paper, they will always ask this. After submitting your DS260, a paper like this will come into the email which you put in your DS260. It will be like this. This paper will be immigrant visa and alien registration application confirmation. It will be a confirmation later. So you will need this because they will be asking this alongside with your DS260. They will ask you and they will always scan this. So guys, I've come to the end of my video and hope you guys have got that information which you needed. Thank you for being here. I'm Aaron Intende. Remember to subscribe and to share with your friends. Bye bye.